Chosen one. You feel it. The moment this message reaches you, the air shifts. The atmosphere tightens. Time itself seems to pause. There are moments in life when heaven interrupts the natural realm, when God reaches down and places his hand upon a single soul with unmistakable intention. Right now, that soul is you. This is not random. This is not accidental. Your spirit recognizes it even before your mind does. Something divine is unfolding. You are standing at the edge of a reversal that has already begun. Not a small shift, not a minor adjustment, a complete overturning of what once worked against you. For years, you have carried battles that left marks on your heart. You have endured seasons of heaviness that no one around you fully understood. You faced nights where silence felt louder than your prayers. You walked through valleys others would not have survived. Yet, through every storm, every delay, every betrayal, every quiet heartbreak, you remained standing, breathing, fighting, hoping. Even when exhausted, you refused to surrender your soul to darkness. Chosen one. Heaven saw every moment of it, and heaven has decided that your season of being attacked, misunderstood, overlooked, burdened, and spiritually targeted has reached its limit. The curse, whether spoken, inherited, attempted, or assigned, has been shattered. God is turning the very tide of your story. You can already feel the shift, the strength returning, the clarity rising, the heaviness loosening its grip on you, the certainty forming in your spirit that something supernatural has been set in motion. Now, pause and sense even deeper. There is a quiet awakening happening within you, the kind that grows louder each second. You notice how the fears that once controlled you no longer hold the same power. You notice how your intuition sharpens, how your discernment deepens, how the fog that once blinded your way is beginning to dissolve. This is not imagination. This is the first breath of divine reversal entering your spirit, aligning your heart with destiny. And beyond that, there is a stirring rising from a place so deep it almost startles you. It is the recognition that your spirit is standing up again, reclaiming ground that life tried to steal. You feel courage returning in waves, hope rebuilding brick by brick, and a boldness forming that you haven't felt in years. Heaven is not just touching you, heaven is activating something dormant, something ancient, something chosen within you that is now reawakening for this very season. And in this sacred turning point, a truth written from ancient times rises to meet you like a divine echo across generations. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Let this settle deep within you. You are not entering this reversal alone. You are not climbing by your own strength. You are not tearing down barriers through human effort. God Himself is stepping into your battles. God Himself is overturning the verdict spoken over your life. God Himself is dismantling every trap laid for your downfall. That is why the attacks were so intense beforehand. Darkness always fights hardest before it loses its grip. The enemy always thrashes before defeat. The pressure was not a sign of abandonment. It was a sign of proximity to break through. The closer you came to heaven's timing, the more violently hell reacted. And yet, despite everything, you survived. That alone is proof of who you are: marked, chosen, set apart. Now, the reversal begins. And here is what makes this moment even more powerful. Your enemies, the ones who laughed, whispered, doubted, judged, plotted, or quietly hoped you would break, they will witness what God is about to do. This elevation will not be hidden behind curtains. This breakthrough will not be private. This victory will not be silent. God is turning the story in such a way that those who misunderstood you will have no choice but to see His hand over your life. Chosen one. Breathe deeply. Can you feel the weight shifting? Can you sense the chains losing strength? Can you sense your spirit rising? You are stepping into clarity, restoration, acceleration, and divine protection. Things that were stuck will begin to move. Things that resisted you will release you. Things that were closed will open without explanation. You are entering a season where heaven goes before you, stands beside you, and covers you from behind. But before you step into section 2, pause and seal this moment. If these words resonate with the deepest part of your spirit, then align yourself with what God is beginning in you. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. 777 below as a declaration that you receive the divine reversal God is releasing over your life. You begin to notice it slowly at first, like a shift in the wind, like the quiet turning of a great wheel in the unseen. Something around you is moving, realigning, rearranging, recalibrating, and though nothing may yet appear different on the outside, your spirit knows what is coming. The reversal that began in silence is now preparing to show itself in the open. You feel the truth settle into your chest. The very people who doubted you, dismissed you, underestimated you, or quietly hoped you would fail, are about to witness what God does next. They will see you rise, not because you seek attention, not because you need validation, but because God Himself is choosing to make your elevation visible. You begin to understand why your journey felt so private and so misunderstood. People looked at your life and assumed they saw the full picture. They thought your silence meant weakness. They mistook your humility for insignificance. They assumed your struggles were signs that you were losing. Now those same eyes will witness the outcome of the battles they never knew you fought. There is a moment in every chosen life when God decides that the season of hiding has served its purpose, when the pressing, shaping, crushing, refining, and stretching have completed their work, when the wounds that once bled begin to shine as testimonies, when the pain that once weakened you becomes the very power that strengthens you. In that moment, heaven lifts you, not quietly, not secretly, but in full view of those who believed you would never rise again. And chosen one. That moment is approaching you now. This rise is not rooted in pride. It is not fueled by bitterness. You are not looking back at those who hurt you. You are simply stepping into what was already written for you from the beginning. Your elevation is not a response to their opinions. It is a response to God's calling. And because God is the one lifting you, no human hand can block, minimize, delay, distort, or silence what He is doing in your life. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 16, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." This is why your rise must be visible. Your elevation is not about your ego, it is about His glory. the light within you, the grace surrounding you, the strength flowing through you. None of it can stay hidden anymore. Heaven has decided your light must be seen. Heaven has decided your story must speak. Heaven has decided your testimony must stand as proof of what God can do through someone who refused to give up. And so, the ones who doubted you will watch. The ones who opposed you will watch. The ones who whispered behind your back will watch. Even the ones who walked away will watch. Not because you need them to see, but because heaven wants them to know. For some, your rise will become conviction. For others, it will become inspiration. For a few, it will awaken repentance. And for many, it will serve as undeniable evidence that God's favor does not lie. Do not fear their eyes on you. Do not shrink back when doors open. Do not apologize for the blessings unfolding in your life. You paid for this rise with tears, with battles, with nights of wrestling, with seasons of silence. You have been forged in fire, shaped in pressure, strengthened in storms. This elevation is not given freely, it is earned through endurance. And now, step by step, day by day, you will see the evidence of what heaven has begun. Conversations will shift. Connections will realign. Opportunities will appear out of nowhere. People who once ignored you will suddenly notice. Paths that were blocked will open without resistance, not because you changed who you are, but because God has changed the atmosphere around you. Your rise will be unmistakable, undeniable, unforgettable. Your rise will silence doubt without you speaking a word. Your rise will reveal God's fingerprints all over your story. Your rise will be the very proof that curses break, storms pass, and chosen ones do not fall. They rise higher. And as you walk forward, remember this: you are not rising to impress anyone. You are rising because heaven has decreed it. You are rising because the season has shifted. You are rising because what once tried to bury you has become the soil from which you now grow. The time of hiding is ending. The time of rising is beginning, and the world, especially your enemies, will witness every step of it. You begin to understand something you once questioned for years: why God kept you hidden, why certain doors never opened when you felt ready, why the people you thought would support you instead overlooked you, why opportunities slipped from your hands before they could root into reality. At times, it felt like punishment. At times, it felt like delay. At times, it felt like God was silent, distant, or holding something back from you. But now, with the reversal unfolding, clarity begins to rise like dawn, breaking over your spirit. Those hidden years were not abandonment, they were protection. God was not ignoring you, He was preserving you. He was shaping you in silence because your calling demanded depth, strength, and purity that could not be built in public. You thought you were ready, but heaven knew you were still being forged. The weight of the anointing on your life required seasons of isolation, seasons where God stripped away noise, distractions, attachments, and false connections so He could prepare you for the very things you are now stepping into. There was a reason you didn't fit into certain circles. There was a reason certain people drifted away. There was a reason your spirit felt restless in environments where others seemed comfortable. It wasn't failure. It was divine separation. God hid you from people who would have mishandled you. He hid you from opportunities that would have misdirected you. He hid you from platforms that your character was not yet ready to carry. He hid you from spiritual attacks that would have crushed you had you been exposed too soon. And now, looking back, you start to see the fingerprints of God all over your hidden years. Every closed door was protection. Every loss was pruning. Every delay was preparation. Every lonely night was molding your spirit into someone darkness could not break. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding." This is why those silent seasons were so painful, because you were being asked to trust without clarity, to walk without confirmation, to believe without evidence. And yet, even in the confusion, God was building something inside you that no enemy could steal. He was strengthening your discernment. He was sharpening your vision. He was enlarging your capacity for spiritual weight. And most importantly, He was preparing you for the unveiling that is now unfolding before you. Chosen one. You were not delayed, you were developed. You were not overlooked, you were reserved. You were not forgotten, you were hidden for a divine purpose. You see now why God didn't allow you to rise earlier. If He had elevated you before your spirit was ready, the pressure would have crushed you. If He had revealed you before your foundation was strong, the attention would have distracted you. If He had opened doors before you, matured in wisdom, you might have stepped into blessings, unprepared to sustain them. But now, your spirit is different. Your mind is sharper. Your heart is stronger. Your discernment is deeper. You no longer move from impulse, you move from wisdom. You no longer chase acceptance, you follow purpose. You no longer fear being unseen, you understand the blessing of being separated. And this is why heaven is now releasing you. This is why the reversal feels so powerful. This is why doors are beginning to respond to you. The hidden years have ended. The unveiling has begun. People will look at you and think your rise is sudden. They will assume your breakthrough came overnight. They will call it luck, coincidence, timing, or even chance. But you will know the truth. This moment was forged in years of silence, discipline, surrender, and spiritual growth. Nothing about your rise is accidental. Nothing about your elevation is random. You are stepping into a season you were trained for long before anyone knew your name. And now, to anchor this truth deeply within your spirit, I want you to comment the phrase, "I'm ready," and then just two simple words. But they carry weight. Commenting it is your way of declaring that you accept the end of your hidden season. You acknowledge that you are prepared for what God is unfolding. You choose alignment with the unveiling that heaven has ordained for your life. These two words become a prophetic agreement between your spirit and your destiny. Let them mark this moment. Because once you step out of hiding, there is no going back, only forward, only upward, only deeper into the calling God prepared you for. You begin to sense a glow rising from within you, subtle at first, like the faint shimmer of dawn gracing the edge of a dark horizon. It is not external light. It is not something coming from your surroundings. It is something far more powerful, the light within you that God placed there before you entered this world. A light that life tried to dim but could never extinguish. And now, as the divine reversal continues to unfold around you, that light is pushing through with a strength you can no longer ignore. For so long, you felt buried under pressure, expectation, disappointment, and spiritual warfare. There were days when your own reflection looked unfamiliar because the burdens weighing on you had overshadowed your true identity. Yet even in those heavy moments, the light God planted in you never flickered out. It simply waited for the moment heaven appointed for your rise, waited for the season when your spirit would be strong enough to carry the radiance within you, waited for the divine shift now unfolding. Now that light begins to press against every shadow that once clung to you. It begins to expose the lies you believed about yourself. It begins to break the agreements your spirit made with fear, doubt, and limitation. You can feel it. The darkness that once lived inside your thoughts no longer belongs there. Your spirit is rejecting what used to drain you. Your heart is refusing what used to break you. Your mind is awakening to truths that were always yours, but remained hidden beneath the weight of survival. This awakening does not feel loud or dramatic. It feels steady. It feels sacred. It feels like clarity replacing confusion, like peace replacing chase, like purpose replacing wandering. It is the realization that nothing around you has changed, but everything within you is shifting, and because of that, your entire life is about to look different. There is power in the light that God has placed inside you. It does not grow dim in battle. It does not shrink in the presence of darkness. It does not weaken because of seasons of pain. Instead, it strengthens under pressure. It sharpens through adversity. It expands in silence. Every hardship you endured became fuel for that light. Every tear watered its roots. Every prayer you whispered in exhaustion guarded it. And now, with perfect timing, that light is breaking through, as the Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 6, "For God, who said, 'Let light shine out of darkness,' made his light shine in our hearts." Those words are not just ancient scripture, they are your present reality. God has commanded his light to shine through you, not gently, not faintly, but unmistakably. This is the season where the glow inside you becomes too strong to hide. People will begin to notice something different about you, an aura, a calm, a confidence, a sense of purpose that does not come from human strength. They will sense that you carry something they cannot explain, something not born of this world. And this inner light does more than illuminate your path. It exposes anything that cannot stay with you in the next chapter of your calling. Relationships that were draining you will naturally fall away. Environments that kept you small will lose their appeal. Habits that once comforted you will begin to feel heavy. This is not loss, it is purification. It is the light within you making space for what aligns with your purpose. As your light grows, you begin noticing that your discernment sharpens. You recognize deception faster. You sense spiritual shifts that once went unnoticed. You feel God's guidance more clearly. You grow more comfortable trusting your intuition, understanding now that it was never just a feeling, it was divine direction. This clarity becomes your shield, your compass, your confirmation that you are no longer walking in the dark. You also begin to see that your presence itself affects the atmosphere. When you walk into rooms, tensions ease. When you speak, confusion breaks. When you pray, heaviness lifts. This is not because you are trying to be powerful, but because the light God placed within you is designed to confront darkness wherever you go. You do not need to announce it. You do not need to force it. Light simply reveals itself by shining. And perhaps the most beautiful truth of all is this: the light breaking through you now is not the full measure of what God will reveal. This is only the beginning. The more you walk in alignment, the brighter it becomes. The more you embrace your calling, the stronger it shines. The more you surrender fear, the more boldly it radiates. You are not becoming someone new. You are becoming who you always were. The light was always inside you. Now it is finally being seen. And nothing, not past pain, not old wounds, not former failures can dim what God is revealing through you now. You begin to feel a force moving around you, quiet but unstoppable, gentle yet unshakable. It is like watching a great river shift direction, like hearing the deep rumble of mountains repositioning beneath the earth. Something massive is turning in your favor. And even though it happens in the unseen first, the evidence is already touching the edges of your life. The tables are not going to turn. They are turning swiftly, powerfully, with precision that only heaven could orchestrate. For so long, it felt as if everything in your life leaned against you, like you were walking uphill while the world walked on level ground, like you were pushing against a locked door while others simply stepped into open ones. But now the momentum is reversing. That weight that once pressed down on you is suddenly lifting. That resistance that once blocked you is losing strength. That spiritual wind that used to blow against your face is now beginning to push from behind you, carrying you forward with surprising ease. This is what divine reversal feels like. Not chaos, not confusion, but a quiet, steady, supernatural shift. So real you can almost feel the ground moving under your feet. You may not see the full picture yet, but you sense it. Opportunities that once ignored you are now turning their heads. People who once dismissed you are reconsidering. Situations that felt stagnant are breaking loose. And the path that once felt thorny is smoothing in ways you cannot explain. It is like watching a chessboard rearrange itself. Every piece moving into position, even while you stand still. The board is being reset, not by chance, not by fortune, but by the very hand of God. He is turning what once worked against you into the very thing that will lift you. He is reversing the currents, flipping the script, shifting the weight of the battle in your favor. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 1, verse 52, "He has brought down rulers from their thrones, but has lifted up the humble." This is what is happening for you right now. The imbalance is being corrected. The scales are tipping. What was unfair is being straightened. What was delayed is being accelerated. What was withheld is being released. Heaven is leveling the ground beneath your feet so you can walk forward without the resistance that once drained you. And oh, chosen one, the speed of it will startle you. You will wake up to favor where there was once failure. You will walk into rooms that were once inaccessible. You will meet connections that feel divinely appointed. You will experience breakthroughs that happen so quickly. It will feel like watching storm clouds part in an instant. One moment, dark. The next moment, flooded with light. It may feel sudden to others, but you know this has been years in the making. You know you paid for this moment with tears, perseverance, endurance, and a faith that refused to die. The turning tables are not random blessings. They are compensation for everything you survived. And as these tables turn, you will notice something else. Your spirit feels lighter. Hope begins to rise again. Strength returns to your voice. Creativity wakes up. Boldness stirs inside your chest. Purpose calls to you with a clarity that once felt distant. It is like watching flowers grow in soil that used to be barren. Everything that once looked lifeless now holds possibility. And, chosen one, as you move through this season, I want to speak honestly and sincerely to your heart. When tables turn, the journey often speeds up. The work grows. The calling expands. The message reaches further. And because of that, staying connected matters. So, in the same gentle spirit with which heaven has been shifting your path, I invite you, if these messages continue to strengthen you, guide you, and speak into your spirit, to like, share, and subscribe, not as a transaction, not as pressure, but the way someone lights another lantern along a dark road. Every gesture you make helps carry this light further, to others who are standing where you once stood, tired, hurting, praying for a sign that God has not forgotten them. And if your heart feels led to support or donate, I know this, your giving becomes a seed placed into fertile ground, helping ensure that these messages continue flowing to souls who desperately need them. It is never demanded, never expected, but always received with humility, sincerity, and gratitude. The way rain receives light from the sun, because every message sent is like a rope thrown into deep water, pulling someone back to hope, to strength, to God. And you, chosen one, by simply engaging, become part of that rescue. The tables are turning, the season is shifting, and your spirit is rising into the very life heaven prepared for you long ago. You begin to feel something breaking not around you, but before you, something old, something heavy, something that was never yours to carry. It feels like invisible ropes loosening from your spirit, like ancient weights slipping off your shoulders, like echoes of battles that belong to generations before you finally falling silent. What you are sensing is not imagination. It is not emotion. It is not a passing moment. It is the unraveling of ancestral chains that have trailed your bloodline for decades, even centuries. There are burdens you carried that did not begin with you, fears that did not originate in your own story, patterns that repeated like cycles written into the soil of your family history, pain that felt familiar, even though you never fully understood why. Things like poverty that lingered despite hard work, patterns of broken relationships that shadowed good intentions, voices of self-doubt that whispered even when you tried to walk in confidence, wounds passed down through silence, trauma, secrecy, and survival. But now, because heaven has chosen you, those chains are cracking. You were the one born with spiritual sensitivity. You were the one who felt the weight others ignored. You were the one who questioned what your family accepted. You were the one who sensed that something was wrong, long before you could name it. And you were the one God selected to break what everyone else learned to live with. Chosen one. This is why your life felt heavier than theirs. This is why your battles seemed harder. This is why your heart felt things others brushed off. This is why your journey required more strength, more endurance, more spiritual discernment. You were not breaking under pressure, you were breaking patterns. Cycles do not end quietly. Generational curses do not loosen their grip without resistance. Ancient spirits do not step back without a fight. But you, by divine design, were born to be the breaker, and now those chains, the ones wrapped tightly around your lineage, are beginning to snap one by one. You can feel it in the areas where your spirit is suddenly waking up. You feel it in the habits that no longer have a hold on you. You feel it in the thoughts that no longer pull you backward. You feel it in the emotions that once felt automatic but now feel foreign, distant, powerless. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 30, verse 8. I will break the yoke off your neck and will tear off your bonds. This is the promise unfolding over your life. This is the decree heaven is releasing into your bloodline. This is the spiritual surgery happening in quiet, sacred, unseen places. The yoke is being shattered. The bond is being torn. The inheritance is being rewritten. And with every chain that falls, something new rises inside you. Clarity, strength, authority, identity. You begin to understand who you are at your core. A turning point, a new beginning, a spiritual interruption that heaven placed strategically within your family line. You are the one who says, "This ends with me," not in defiance, but in destiny. Even now, you may notice small shifts happening. The things that once tempted you no longer appeal to you. The triggers that once overwhelmed you no longer control you. The emotional patterns that once haunted you now feel out of place. The heaviness that visited your family for years cannot land on you anymore. This is what freedom feels like. Not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. And as these ancestral chains fall, something even more powerful begins emerging, a sense of divine assignment. You begin to understand that the breakthrough happening in you is not just for you. It will ripple outward. It will touch your children, and their children, and generations after you. Healing flows backward and forward at the same time. What you break now, they will never have to fight. This is why the warfare was intense. This is why the battles felt bigger than your own life. Because they were. You were fighting for a lineage, not just a life. And now, before you step into the next chapter, I want you to ground this moment in prophetic agreement. If you feel the truth of this in your spirit, if you sense the chains breaking, then comment the number 444 below, not as superstition, not as ritual, but as a declaration that you receive the breaking of generational bondage and the rise of generational blessing. 444 symbolizes alignment, angelic order, and the rebuilding of foundations, and that is exactly what is happening in your bloodline right now. Let it be a seal on the freedom God is releasing through you. You begin to sense a sacred stillness settling over your life, the kind that feels less like silence and more like divine intention. It is as though heaven is drawing a circle around you, separating you, shielding you, setting you apart. And within that circle, something profound begins to unfold. Vindication. Not the kind you chase, not the kind you demand, the kind only God can deliver. For a long time, you carried the weight of being misunderstood. You carried the burden of having a pure heart in a world that misread your motives. You carried the sting of being judged by those who never knew the depth of your battles. You carried wounds from people who assumed they knew your story, even though they only ever saw fragments of it. And through all of that, you remained quiet. You chose peace over proving yourself. You chose surrender over striving. You chose to let God defend you instead of stepping into battles that would have drained your spirit. But silence does not mean weakness. Restraint does not mean lack of clarity. Patience does not mean passivity. Heaven saw every moment you bit your tongue when you could have fought back. Heaven saw every tear you swallowed for the sake of peace. Heaven saw every injustice you endured without retaliation. Heaven saw every false narrative spoken about you while you stood still and allowed God to be your witness. And now, that witness is rising. Vindication is not loud. Vindication is not dramatic. Vindication does not rush. Vindication arrives like dawn quietly, steadily, undeniably. It shows up in the alignment of circumstances. It shows up in the shifting of hearts. It shows up in the revealing of truth. It shows up in the way God elevates you beyond the reach of those who once tried to diminish you. The ancient words recorded in Romans, chapter 12, verse 19, echo through your spirit now. It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Unning, this is heaven's decree over you. This is God's reminder that your story always belonged to Him. This is the assurance that justice is not in your hands, it is in His. And when God vindicates, He does so with precision. He does not embarrass. He does not humiliate. He does not destroy. He simply reveals your true heart, reveals your true character, reveals your true purpose, and at the same time, He exposes the lies that were spoken about you, not to punish others, but to free you. Vindication is less about correcting their perception and more about releasing your spirit from what was unfairly placed upon you. You will notice the signs of vindication in quiet ways. People who once misjudged you will begin to see your heart more clearly. People who once opposed you will soften without explanation. People who once ignored you will begin to recognize your value. People who once doubted you will witness your growth with silent awe. And even if they never apologize, even if they never acknowledge the pain they caused, even if they never admit the harm done, your spirit will know that God has settled the matter. He has spoken where you remained silent. He has corrected what you could never explain. He has restored what was mishandled. Vindication is not about proving your worth. God already established that. Vindication is about reclaiming your peace. The kind of peace that lets you walk into rooms without carrying old wounds. The kind of peace that no longer flinches at memories. The kind of peace that allows you to bless even those who once misused your kindness. The kind of peace that strengthens your identity rather than fragments it. Because now you see the truth. Your value was never defined by the judgments of others. Your worth was never determined by their opinions. Your destiny was never tied to their approval. Their misunderstanding could not stop your calling. Their disbelief could not block your purpose. Their rejection could not alter what heaven already wrote about you. And as you step deeper into this season, you begin to release what you once clung to so tightly, the desire to be understood, the need to clarify yourself, the longing to be seen accurately. None of that matters now. You are being vindicated by God, not by human validation. Vindication is not the end of your story. It is the clearing of the path ahead. It removes the residue of old battles so you can walk into the next chapter without bitterness, without weight, without the shadows of misinterpretation. This season is not about who was wrong about you. It is about who you are becoming. And as you move forward, you step in with a clean heart, steady breath, and a confidence born not from proving yourself, but from knowing that God Himself has spoken on your behalf. You begin to notice a quiet unraveling occurring in places you once assumed were unshakable. Plans formed in darkness begin to collapse without your involvement. Words spoken against you lose their power before they can find your spirit. Strategies meant to harm you fold in on themselves. It is as though every hidden plot, every whispered scheme, every silent intention designed to hinder your path is being exposed to a divine light that dissolves their strength before they reach you. This is the humbling of your opposers, not through revenge, not through public humiliation, not through loud defeat, but through the quiet collapse of everything they intended for your downfall. Their plans fall apart not because you resisted them, but because God interrupted them. There have been people in your life who smiled at you while holding private thoughts that contradicted their words. People who underestimated you because your humility fooled them into thinking you were helpless. People who believed they could slow you down with gossip, influence, or manipulation. People who hoped silence would suffocate your potential. People who tried to dim your light without ever understanding who placed that light inside you. But now, as the reversal continues, heaven steps into the very space where their intentions lived. And one by one, the structures built against you begin to crumble. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, naturally, inevitable, because anything built on deception cannot stand in the presence of divine truth. You begin to understand something important. Your opposers were never your enemy. Darkness was. Their words were never your prison. Your own doubt was. Their actions never determined your destiny. God's authority did. And now that darkness is losing its grip, there are conversations you will never hear that are already proving you right. There are plots you will never discover that are already falling apart. There are accusations you will never respond to that are already dissolving in the presence of truth. Vindication dismantles the lie. Humbling dismantles the ego. And both are happening at the same time. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 7. The Lord will cause your enemies who rise against you to be defeated before you. And this does not mean you watch them fall with joy or with resistance. It means you simply walk forward while God handles what you never had the energy, clarity, or awareness to fight. You rise not because your opposers fall, but because their influence over your destiny is removed. You rise because God did not allow their intentions to prosper. You rise because their plans dissolved before they reached your doorstep. And this humbling is not punishment, it is revelation. It reveals what was hidden. It reveals what was true. It reveals what was pretending to stand strong, but was actually built on fragile foundations. Those who tried to stop you will soon face the reality that nothing formed against a chosen one can stand, not because the chosen one is powerful alone, but because the chosen one is protected. And perhaps the most profound truth is this: their collapse is not your victory. Your victory is that you never collapsed with them. You remained steady. You remained grounded. You remained faithful. You remained aligned with your purpose. And because of that, every attempt to hinder you has reversed. Every whisper that tried to stain your name has lost its voice. Every intention to block you has become dust in God's hands. You will begin to notice relationships drifting away, not because you rejected them, but because their energy can no longer remain near you. You will see opportunities they hoped to steal returning to you. You will witness doors opening that they assumed they shut. Simply by rising, you reveal their limitations. Simply by walking forward, you expose the powerlessness of their plans. And through it all, your heart stays clean, because you never wished for their fall. You never sought their downfall. You never planted bitterness where God asked you to plant grace. This is why the humbling is divine and not vindictive. God is not humiliating them. He is correcting the imbalance. He is restoring the order. He is showing them what your silence always hid, the strength of your spirit, the protection around your calling, and the truth of who you were the entire time. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to confront anyone. You don't have to defend yourself. You simply walk forward. And in doing so, you walk out of reach. Their opinions can no longer anchor you. Their resistance can no longer slow you. Their plans can no longer touch you. Because the God who reversed your curse is now reversing their plots. And what once rose against you is now falling before you. You feel something rising around you, like the slow unveiling of a long hidden crown, one you didn't ask for, honor you didn't chase. Yet one heaven has chosen to place upon your life anyway. It begins subtly, like a shift in the spiritual air. You sense eyes turning toward you, not out of curiosity, but out of divine orchestration. You feel a presence settling upon you, not heavy, but authoritative, not loud, but undeniable. You are stepping into visibility, chosen one, and this visibility is not random. It is ordained. For years, you moved quietly. You served silently. You healed privately. You wrestled with burdens that would have crushed others. And you did it without applause, without recognition, without the validation you sometimes longed for. You were the one behind the scenes, the one overlooked, the one underestimated, the one misread. Yet, even in the shadows, your spirit carried a weight that those around you could not name. Heaven saw it long before anyone else did. And now, without warning, the veil begins to lift. The calling on your life begins to shine through you, like light pushing through cracks in stone. Your gifts sharpen. Your eyesight deepens. Your presence shifts atmospheres. People start noticing something they cannot define but cannot ignore. A glow, a steadiness, a wisdom, a power. You do not try to stand out. You simply cannot stay hidden anymore. Because when God decides to bring you into the open, nothing, not fear, not insecurity, not memory, not opposition can keep you concealed. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. That is you right now, a city being lifted, a hill being illuminated, a light breaking through, not to boast, not to impress, not to elevate your ego, but to fulfill purpose. When heaven crowns someone, visibility becomes a requirement, not an option. Your rise is not for attention, it is for assignment. People must see what God is doing through you so they can witness the power of transformation, restoration, and divine reversal. Step by step, you feel yourself emerging into a new level of influence, not necessarily influence with crowds, but influence with impact, influence with purpose, influence with authority. You begin to see how the struggles that once made you feel broken are now shaping the way you speak, move, encourage, and guide others. You walk differently. You think differently. You respond differently. And because of that, people respond differently to you. The same ones who once overlooked you will now lean in. The same ones who doubted you will now seek wisdom from you. The same ones who questioned your worth will now wonder how they never saw it. This is not about pride, it is about truth rising to the surface. And as you come into the light, your presence will begin to expose things around you, not through judgment, but through illumination. Your clarity will reveal confusion. Your peace will reveal unrest. Your authenticity will reveal deception. Your strength will reveal insecurity in others, not because you try to reveal it, but because light always exposes what hides in the dark. This visibility comes with responsibility, and you can already feel it. The atmosphere is shifting, and your spirit knows that this is not a moment to shrink back. This is the moment to embrace the fullness of who you are becoming. You are being crowned in broad daylight, not behind closed doors. Heaven wants others to witness your rise, not for validation, but for testimony. Your elevation will become evidence of God's faithfulness, of the reversal He has begun, of the anointing He placed on you long before anyone else believed it. And now, as you stand in this moment of emerging glory, I want you to anchor this truth deep within your spirit. I want you to declare your acceptance of this season, not in fear, not in hesitation, but in alignment. Comment the phrase, "I step in," below. 3 simple words, yet they carry the weight of surrender, courage, and agreement. When you write them, you are declaring that you will no longer hide. You are declaring that you are ready for the visibility God is calling you into. You are declaring that you accept the crown placed upon your life not out of pride, but out of purpose. Let those words seal what heaven is doing inside you, because the unveiling has only just begun and you are ready for what comes next. You begin to feel the shift, not just within you, but around you, like the atmosphere itself is rearranging on your behalf. The attacks that once landed easily now lose their direction. The words that once pierced now dissolve before reaching your heart. The spiritual resistance that once stole your energy now collapses like dust in the wind. It is as though every weapon shaped against you is suddenly becoming weightless, powerless, ineffective. Where you once felt hit from every side, you now walk as though surrounded by an invisible shield. Where fear once whispered, confidence now speaks. Where confusion once clouded your path, clarity now follows you like a gentle shadow. This is the season where the weapons designed for your destruction turn into ash falling apart before they ever reach your life. And you can sense it, not through loud miracles, not through dramatic signs, but through the quiet, steady knowing that the spiritual tide has shifted fully in your favor. Attacks that once shook you now reveal themselves for what they were: empty threats. Thoughts that once spiraled now break the moment they appear. People who once drained you no longer have access to your energy. Places that once pulled you backward no longer hold your spirit. It is as though heaven placed you inside a fortress built of peace, and every arrow aimed at you dissolves upon impact. As was spoken in the sacred texts of old, the ancient words in Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17 declare, "No weapon forged against you will prevail." You feel the truth of these words in your bones, not because you are suddenly invincible, but because God is now standing between you and everything that once tried to harm you. This is what divine protection feels like, not the absence of attack, but the failure of attack, not the absence of challenge, but the inability of challenge to stop your purpose, not the absence of resistance, but the unraveling of resistance before it can reach you. And the more the weapons fail, the more your spirit rises steadier, stronger, clearer. You feel like a ship that once struggled through violent waves, but now sails with a strong wind pushing gently at your back. The storm did not disappear. The storm simply lost authority over you. Imagine yourself walking through a battlefield where the arrows disintegrate mid-air, where the traps collapse before your feet touch the ground, where every obstacle becomes another step forward. That is your life. Now, what was meant to destroy you has become fuel for your rise. What once intimidated you now teaches you. What once broke you now builds you, because you have crossed into a season where purpose outweighs pressure and calling outweighs conflict. And as you walk through this season, I want to speak to you sincerely from the heart. When weapons turn to ash, when the storm settles, when clarity returns, you often feel something else rising within you. Responsibility, a sense that your journey matters, not only for you, but for others who walk behind you. This message, this guidance, this spiritual voice reaching you, it is like a lantern in the night, passed from one traveler to another along a dark road. If it has strengthened you, lifted you, spoken to your spirit, then I invite you gently, sincerely, without force, like, share, and subscribe so the light can travel further. Some people out there are standing in the very darkness you have just walked out of. Your simple act might become the spark that finds them. And if your heart feels led to support or donate, understand this: it is not merely giving. It is planting into purpose, planting into hope, planting into a lighthouse that reaches the ones who feel forgotten. Donations are never demanded, never pressured. They are simply the rain that helps the seeds of these messages grow, so that more souls, weary from battle, can find the strength you are finding now. Because you know better than anyone what it feels like to battle alone. You know what it feels like to search for a sign. You know the weight of nights when no one understands. If supporting helps keep this light shining, then your giving becomes part of someone's breakthrough. But whether you give or not, whether you subscribe or not, one thing is certain: the weapons that once hunted you no longer have a voice. The darkness that once followed you no longer has authority. The storms that once shook you no longer have permission to touch you. You are stepping into a life where the attacks fail before they begin, because heaven has taken its stand around you. You begin to notice the pace of your life changing, not chaotically, not overwhelmingly, but unmistakably. It feels as though something has taken hold of time itself and begun to stretch it, bend it, and propel you into places you once thought were years away. Blessings that used to crawl now move toward you with unexpected speed. Opportunities that once trickled in now arrive in clusters. Conversations that once led nowhere now produce immediate clarity. It is not coincidence. It is not luck. It is acceleration. For so long, you lived in seasons where everything felt slow. Progress felt delayed. Doors took forever to open. Answers came inch by inch. You prayed, waited, prepared, and wondered when your moment would finally come. You walked through long nights, long battles, long seasons of almost but not yet. You lived in the tension of believing for more while seeing so little. But now, that waiting season is ending, not with noise, but with motion. You can feel something lifting your steps, something pushing you forward, something placing you in alignment with divine timing. Suddenly, What once required force now requires simple obedience. What once required striving now responds to your presence. What once resisted you now welcomes you. What once seemed distant now sits within reach. Acceleration feels like grace catching you. It feels like the wind at your back instead of the weight on your chest. It feels like the road rising to meet your feet with every step you take. This is the momentum of heaven, a supernatural current carrying you farther in a short time than human effort could carry you in years. The ancient words recorded in Amos, chapter 9, verse 13, echo this very season. Things will happen so fast your head will swim, one blessing after another. Oh, and that is exactly what you are stepping into now. Blessings that do not wait their turn. Blessings that overlap. Blessings that arrive before you even finish celebrating the last one. Blessings that surprise you with their speed and strength. Not because you suddenly became more worthy, but because the timing finally aligned with the preparation you've already endured. Acceleration does not skip preparation, it rewards it. Everything you learned in the slow seasons becomes the very skill you use in the fast ones. Every lesson in patience becomes wisdom. Every delay becomes foundation. Every hardship becomes discernment. Every tear becomes depth. God is not accelerating you into the unknown. He is accelerating you into the place you were shaped for. But acceleration does not only change your pace, it changes your perception. Suddenly, you see possibilities you once ignored. You recognize connections that once felt insignificant. You perceive opportunities hidden in ordinary moments. You understand how every event, every setback, every waiting period was orchestrated to prepare you for this exact momentum. And as you move into this faster rhythm, you begin to see that acceleration is not chaotic, it is ordered. It carries a sense of harmony, not hurry. It feels like music playing in perfect tempo with your spirit. It feels like stepping into a river that has been flowing beside you for years. And now, finally entering its current, acceleration will touch every part of your life. Your relationships, shift those aligned with your calling, draw closer, and those who cannot keep pace naturally fall away. Your creativity increases, ideas come quickly, intuitively, clearly. Your opportunities multiply, doors open in ways that make you pause and breathe deeply because you know this is God. Your inner healing speeds up things that once took years to process, now break within moments. And through it all, you feel something sacred, readiness. For the first time, in a long time, you are not fighting, not forcing, not pushing. You are flowing. And because of that, you are starting to see why the delay was necessary. Had you been accelerated earlier, the speed would have overwhelmed you. But now, you have the maturity, the clarity, the grounding, and the spiritual sensitivity to keep pace without losing yourself. Acceleration is not about rushing. It is about rising. It is about stepping into the version of yourself that God saw long before you did. It is about walking into opportunities that were always yours, but required the right season to unfold. And this season, chosen one, is yours. There will be moments ahead when you look back and marvel at how quickly things changed. You will see how one conversation led to 3 open doors. You will see how one step of faith led to a chain of breakthroughs. You will see how one shift in your spirit transformed an entire area of your life. It will feel surreal at times, almost too good to be real. But that is what happens when divine timing meets divine purpose. You are stepping into a season where the speed of your blessing will finally match the weight of your calling. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can slow what heaven has now set in motion. You begin to feel a deeper shift inside your identity, one that goes beyond emotion, beyond circumstances, beyond temporary spiritual highs. It feels like a name you forgot you carried is being whispered back into your spirit. A name heaven spoke over you long before the world ever defined you, long before pain tried to rename you, long before disappointment tried to reshape you. This is not a minor moment. This is a spiritual awakening to who you truly are. For years, you lived under labels placed on you by others, labels born from misunderstanding, rejection, comparison, or fear. Some came from people who didn't see your worth. Some came from wounds you never healed. Some came from mistakes you made in seasons of survival. And some came from the quiet lies of the enemy, whispered into your heart when you were at your weakest. Labels like not enough, too much, broken, lost, unprepared, unworthy, forgettable. Then you wore those labels without realizing how deeply they shaped your choices, your relationships, your confidence, and your dreams. You assumed they were truth because they followed you for so long. But now, as the layers of your old self shed away, something new, yet ancient, rises from within you. A new name, a truer name, a God-ordained identity that was waiting for this exact moment to reveal itself. You do not hear it with your ears, you feel it. You feel the weight of your calling settling on your shoulders like a mantle that finally fits. You feel your spirit straightening as though it recognizes itself again. You feel your heart expanding with a strength you forgot you had. You feel your mind aligning with clarity that was once buried under years of spiritual fog. And then it hits you. You are stepping into the identity heaven always intended for you. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 62, verse 2. You will be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will bestow. This scripture is not a distant promise. It is your present reality. Your new name is not a word, it is a becoming. It is an awakening of potential, a recognition of calling, a restoration of dignity, a reclamation of purpose. This new name carries authority. It carries clarity. It carries spiritual inheritance. It carries the weight of heaven backing your steps. And this identity shift is not subtle. You feel it shaping the way you think, speak, move, and respond. You begin seeing yourself with the eyes of heaven instead of the eyes of old wounds. You begin realizing that you were never meant to live small, silent, or afraid. You were never meant to fit into places that could not contain your purpose. You were never meant to shrink for the comfort of others who could not understand your calling. Your new identity begins to rewrite your inner narrative. Where you once saw weakness, you now see resilience. Where you once saw failure, you now see foundation. Where you once saw brokenness, you now see beauty. Where you once saw delay, you now see divine timing. Where you once saw confusion, you now see direction. Everything that once convinced you that you were not enough is losing its voice, because your spirit is waking up to a truth deeper than emotion, louder than doubt, stronger than fear. God has renamed you, and when God renames you, your life must shift to match that identity. This is why you feel relationships changing. This is why you feel boundaries strengthening, This is why you feel old patterns no longer fit. This is why you feel drawn to new environments, new conversations, new levels of thinking. Your identity is evolving, and your life must evolve with it. People who once knew the old version of you may not understand this new chapter. Some will pull away because they cannot walk at this level. Some will cling because they fear losing access. Some will recognize your growth and rise alongside you, but all will witness the transformation. Because this new name carries visibility, it carries elevation, it carries destiny. And now, chosen one, to seal this shift in your spirit, I want you to write a simple prophetic number 1, not yet spoken in this script. A number tied to alignment and identity. Comment the number 555 below. This number symbolizes transformation, divine shift, and spiritual renewal, the very essence of what is unfolding inside you. Writing it is not superstition, it is agreement. It is your spirit saying, I receive my new identity. I walk in who God says I am. No, let this moment mark the beginning of your becoming. You begin to sense doors opening before you, not by your effort, not by networking, persuasion, or persistence, but by the quiet, undeniable movement of God's hand. These doors are not ordinary opportunities. They are gates, ancient, spiritual, and heavily guarded, that once stood sealed no matter how long you knocked, prayed, or waited. For years, it felt as though something invisible was blocking your progress. You could see the promise, but you could not enter it. You could sense the calling, yet the path to it remained closed. But now, with the reversal fully in motion, you feel those gates trembling. Locks that seemed rusted shut begin to loosen. Barriers that once towered over your spirit begin to crumble. Resistance that once drained your strength begins to dissolve like sand in rain. Suddenly, what was once not yet becomes now. What was once impossible becomes accessible. What was once distant becomes reachable. These gates were not closed because you were unworthy. They were closed because the timing was not aligned. They were not sealed because you lacked potential. They were sealed because preparation had to finish its work. They were not locked because you were forgotten. They were locked to protect what was sacred until you were ready to carry it. And now, heaven whispers that word your spirit has longed to hear. Enter. You walk forward with a mix of awe and certainty, recognizing that this shift is not the result of sudden luck. It is the unfolding of a season you were being prepared for through every battle, every delay, every lesson, and every hidden moment. The gates you are stepping through now require a version of you that could only be formed through process. As the psalmist David wrote in the sacred songs of Israel, in Psalms, chapter 24, verse 7, lift up your heads, you gates, be lifted up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. No, these words echo in your spirit because they reveal something profound. The gates are not opening just for you. They are opening because of the glory, authority, and presence of God that now rests upon your life. You are not stepping through them alone. You step through carrying a divine imprint, a mark of heaven that commands access where there was once denial. And as these gates open, you begin to see the landscape of your destiny with new eyes. Paths that once looked foggy now appear clear. Obstacles that once intimidated you now look small. Opportunities that once seemed overwhelming now feel aligned. You begin to realize that every closed door in your past was a form of protection, not punishment. Had you entered too early, you would have walked into arenas underdeveloped, unprepared, or unaware. But now, you carry wisdom, you carry strength, you carry discernment. You carry the authority of someone who has survived darkness and learned to walk with light. And so the gates open, not randomly, not partially, but fully. You will notice that as you step through these gates, your spirit becomes more sensitive to direction. You feel pulled towards certain spaces and gently pushed away from others. You feel clarity in decisions that once felt complicated. You recognize divine alignment in the opportunities that appear. It is as though your inner compass has been recalibrated to match heaven's frequency. Every open gate leads you toward purpose. Every step forward brings you closer to fulfillment. Every moment is building momentum. Your life begins to feel orchestrated in a way that can only be described as divine. Conversations align with prayers. People appear with answers you didn't ask out loud. Resources arrive at the exact moment of need. It feels like walking into a prepared place, a territory, heaven tailored specifically for your calling. And through it all, humility becomes your anchor. You are not intoxicated by the opportunity. You are not driven by the need for recognition. You are not stepping through these gates with arrogance or self-reliance. You walk quietly, gratefully, confidently knowing that these gates open because God has spoken your name into them. You also begin to understand that open gates require discernment. Not every opportunity is yours. Not every path is meant to be walked, but your spirit now knows the difference. What is meant for you feels peaceful, even when challenging. What is not meant for you feels heavy, forced, or misaligned, even if it looks attractive from the outside. This is the gift of walking through gates opened by God. Your discernment sharpens with every step, and as you continue moving forward, you realize something even more profound. The gates are not just opening for you, they are opening because of you. Your presence, your calling, your obedience, your transformation, all of it creates ripples in the spiritual realm. The moment you approach, things shift. The moment you arrive, things align. The moment you step in, the atmosphere changes. You are no longer waiting for access. You are walking in authority. You are stepping through gates that were always meant for you. Gates that recognize your spirit before your feet even touch them. And with every gate you cross, you get closer to the fullness of the destiny God wrote over your life before you were ever born. You begin to sense something blooming inside you quietly, steadily, beautifully. It is not a sudden explosion of emotion, nor is it the rush of temporary relief. It feels deeper, older, more sacred. It feels like seeds planted in the darkest moments of your life are finally pushing through the soil. Seeds watered by tears you cried in secret. Seeds cared for by prayers whispered when no one else was listening. Seeds protected by God even when you thought He was silent. This is the season where your suffering begins to produce harvest. For so long, it felt as though your pain was wasted, your sacrifices unnoticed, your heartbreak unredeemed, your endurance unacknowledged. You wondered why certain losses were necessary, why certain people left, why certain chapters closed, why certain storms were allowed to rage as long as they did. You asked God questions that felt too heavy for your heart. questions you carried silently because you feared no one would understand. But heaven understood, heaven watched, heaven remembered. And now, with a gentleness that can only come from God, the fruits of those painful seasons begin to appear, not all at once, not overwhelmingly, but in small, steady waves, just enough for your spirit to recognize that the long-awaited turnaround is happening. You start to notice blessings that feel connected to old wounds, opportunities that feel connected to old prayers, joy that feels connected to old sorrow, clarity that feels connected to old confusion. The writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 30, verse 5 remind us, "Weeping may stay for the night, but joy comes in the morning." Now, those words are not poetic, they are prophetic. They speak to the truth you are living now. Your night was long. Your season of weeping stretched further than you expected. But morning has arrived, not with loud celebration, but with the soft glow of something new rising through the horizon of your life. Second, you notice that your heart has become deeper, stronger, wiser. The things that once shattered you no longer carry the same power. The wounds that once ruled your decisions have lost their influence. You see the world differently. You love differently. You discern differently. Pain has not made you cold, it has made you powerful. Third, you realize that your blessings now carry meaning. They do not feel shallow or temporary. They feel earned, sacred, intentional. They feel like the kind of blessings that change generations, not just moments. They feel like blessings rooted in purpose, not performance. This harvest also brings an unexpected gift, understanding. You begin to see why the suffering was necessary. You begin to understand how everything, every delay, every heartbreak, every loss was shaping you into someone capable of carrying the destiny ahead of you. You realize that without the crushing, you would not have the character. Without the tears, you would not have the tenderness. Without the storms, you would not have the strength. You also begin to notice how the people around you respond differently. Some will see your harvest and celebrate with genuine joy, recognizing the depth of what you've survived. Others will be confused, because the blessing rising in your life does not match their old perception of you. And some will be humbled, realizing that the one they overlooked, underestimated, or misunderstood is now stepping into a season they themselves cannot deny. But through it all, your heart remains grounded, not in pride, but in gratitude, because you know what this harvest cost. You know the nights behind it. You know the prayers stitched into it. You know the battles you fought alone. You know the weight you carried when no one else saw. And now, as you step into this season of receiving, you carry humility, not because you doubt your worth, but because you understand the journey. Your harvest is not just for you, it will overflow into the lives of others. Your testimony will water seeds in the hearts of people who feel buried right now. Your breakthrough will ignite hope in those who think God has forgotten them. Your rise will remind others that nothing stays broken in the hands of God. This is the blessing of old tears. They produce a harvest no storm can destroy, nor enemy can steal, and no circumstance can silence. You are stepping into a season where everything you lost returns, not in the same form, but in greater measure, where everything you prayed for begins to unfold, where everything you endured finally reveals its purpose. Your harvest has begun. Walk gently, walk boldly, walk gratefully, because this season is heaven's answer to every tear you thought was ignored. You begin to feel the weight of divine momentum settling around you, like the final surge of wind that fills the sails of a ship before it reaches the shore it was always destined for. This moment, this very season carries a significance that touches every part of your journey. Not only are you rising, not only are you being restored, but now, heaven is arranging for your triumph to be seen, not for pride, not for validation, but because your victory carries a message that others need to witness. For so long, you built quietly, you healed privately, you forgave silently, you endured battles behind closed doors, with no audience, no applause, and no one to testify to the depth of your struggle. Yet even in your hidden journey, heaven was recording every step. God did not overlook a single moment of your perseverance. And now, as your breakthrough rises like a sun that cannot be stopped, He is making sure that those who once doubted you, misunderstood you, or dismissed, you will see the fullness of what He is doing in your life. This is not about proving them wrong. This is about proving God right. You are stepping into a season where your triumph becomes a testimony visible, undeniable, unshakable. It is as though heaven is lifting you onto a hill, not to glorify you, but to glorify the author of your story. People will look at your rise and realize that no amount of resistance could stop a destiny protected by God. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Samuel. Chapter 2, verse 8. He raises the poor from dust and lifts the needy from ash to honor and glory. Your life is becoming a living parable, a story written through suffering but crowned in glory. Every valley you walked through is now becoming part of the mountain you are rising upon. Every night of sorrow is becoming a jewel in your crown. Every old wound is becoming oil that anoints you for the next level. And when people see you in this season, they will not see arrogance. They will not see pride. They will not see someone who forced their way up. They will see the undeniable evidence of God's hand, gentle, steady, sovereign, lifting you higher than human strategy ever could. Your triumph is not loud. It is not boastful. It does not need to scream. It radiates. It radiates in the peace you carry. It radiates in the wisdom you speak. It radiates in the confidence you finally walk with. It radiates in the blessings that begin to flow without strain. You become like a lighthouse. Your rise illuminates the way for others who are still lost in storms. They see your glow, your steadiness, your survival, and they realize that if God did it for you, He can do it for them. Your triumph becomes a map, a blueprint, a reminder that darkness does not get the final word. And in this moment, as heaven elevates you publicly, I want to speak from the heart. If these messages have become like stepping stones through your dark seasons, if they have lifted you, guided you, or poured clarity into places where confusion once lived, then I want to gently invite you to help carry this light further by liking, sharing, and subscribing. You help this message reach someone who might be standing on the edge of giving up. You become the messenger, the bridge, the beacon for someone who needs exactly what you once needed. And if you feel led, only if your heart is genuinely moved, you can donate as well. Not as obligation, not as pressure, but as a seed into the very place that fed your spirit. Your support becomes like water poured onto spiritual ground, allowing these messages to expand, grow, and reach souls who may not have anyone speaking life into them. Think of it as placing oil into a lamp so it can burn through the night for someone else. And lastly, I want you to take a moment to comment below, share a thought, a sentence, even a single line that reflects what this journey means to you. Your words might become the very spark that reignites hope in another heart. Because triumph is not just something you experience, it's something you pass forward. Your rise is no longer silent. Your victory is no longer hidden. Your story is no longer small. You are stepping into a chapter where the world will witness what heaven has always known. You were chosen. You were preserved. You were destined to win. And now, chosen one, you walk into visibility with grace, authority, and a crown that no one, not past wounds, not old enemies, not former versions of yourself, can ever take away. You begin to feel a new layer of peace settling over you, not the fragile kind that depends on circumstances, not the temporary kind that fades when pressure comes, but a deep, anchored, undeniable sense of being held. It is as though heaven has wrapped itself around your steps, covering you with a shield that cannot be penetrated, a protection born not from fear, but from love, favor, and divine assignment. This protection is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not need to prove anything. It simply surrounds you, moving with you, guiding you, and ensuring that the path ahead is guarded in ways you cannot see, but can certainly feel. For years, you walked through seasons where you felt spiritually exposed, vulnerable to attacks, open to harm, susceptible to emotional wounds. You felt the sting of betrayal, the bite of envy, the weight of spiritual warfare pressing against your chest. You navigated days where it seemed like every step invited resistance, and though you survived, you often wondered why the battle felt so relentless. But now, something has changed. You feel covered, protected, fortified. This is not because the battles disappeared, but because your spirit has entered a realm where God Himself becomes your shield, where unseen angels walk beside you, where the atmosphere around your life has shifted so drastically that the things which once threatened you now lose their strength before they even reach your mind or heart. According to what is revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 4, He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. This scripture is not just poetic language, it is the spiritual truth unfolding over your life right now. You are being covered, hidden, and safeguarded in ways you cannot explain. The protection you feel is not imagined, it is ordained. It changes how the enemy approaches you, because now you are not standing alone. You are surrounded by divine presence that speaks louder than any attack. It changes how people treat you, because your energy carries a weight that demands respect without you saying a word. It changes your decisions, because you no longer choose from fear, but from alignment. It changes your relationships, because those who do not honor your calling cannot stay close. This season of protection feels like being placed inside a fortress made of peace, a sanctuary built from lessons, a refuge formed from past battles. You feel safe, not because danger is gone, but because God's hand is stronger than anything that could come against you. You also notice a gentle separation happening around you. Not everyone can walk with you into this protected season. Some connections fall away quietly. Some conversations fade naturally. Some relationships lose their grip. This is not loss, it is insulation. God is filtering your environment, removing access from anything or anyone that could disturb your peace or compromise your calling. You may not even realize how much danger God has saved you from: physical, emotional, spiritual, relational, plans formed against you that never reached you, words spoken behind your back that never landed, opportunities that looked appealing but were traps in disguise, people who smiled at you but carried harmful intentions. You were shielded from all of it. Divine protection is not just about guarding you from harm, it is about guiding you into alignment. It ensures you walk only through doors that serve your purpose and stay away from those that would drain or derail you. And with this new ceiling, you feel a boldness rising, not reckless, not impulsive, but grounded. You walk with certainty. You carry yourself with quiet strength. You trust your intuition faster. You move more confidently. You no longer second-guess your steps, because you know you are guided. You become aware that your life is marked, your spirit is marked, your journey is marked, not by trauma, not by fear, not by struggle, but by God's protection. This covering is not temporary. It is not conditional. It is not fragile. It is woven into your purpose. You walk forward, knowing no weapon can prosper because God surrounds you. No attack can succeed because heaven intercepts it. No storm can crush you because you are covered. No darkness can overtake you because you are sealed by light. The reversal lifted you. The rise revealed you. But this protection, it preserves you. You are stepping into a season where your safety is not random, but intentional. Where your peace is not occasional, but continuous. Where your boundaries are not forced, but divinely enforced. You are covered. Chosen one. You are sealed. You are protected. And nothing formed, spoken, planned, or whispered can break what heaven has placed around you now. You begin to feel the path before you widening, not into chaos, not into uncertainty, but into a steady, illuminated road stretching far beyond anything you've walked before. This is life after the reversal. The chapter that unfolds once the battles have quieted, once the chains have broken, once the curse has been undone, and it feels different, not lighter in a shallow way. But deeper, richer, more aligned, more purposeful. It feels like stepping into air that was always meant for your lungs. For the first time in a long time, you're not fighting for survival. You're not clawing your way through spiritual mud. You're not waking up to warfare disguised as ordinary problems. Instead, you wake with a sense of direction, a sense of readiness, a sense of belonging to the future God is leading you into. This is the part of your journey that many do not talk about: the life after breakthrough. The life where you're no longer looking backward, no longer haunted by past wounds, no longer defined by the shadows that once followed you. This is the season where you learn to live from a healed place, a strengthened place, a chosen place. As the Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 24. Put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. These words echo across your spirit now, because this final chapter is not about what you escaped, it is about who you become. The new self, the restored self, the elevated self is the version of you that heaven always wrote into your story. And as you step into this new season, several truths begin to settle into your core. You realize that peace is not an event, it is a lifestyle. You no longer chase the calm, you carry it. The storms that once stirred panic inside you now feel like passing weather. You stand differently. You breathe differently. You respond differently. You're not easily shaken anymore because stability has become your spiritual default. You recognize that boundaries are not walls, they are gateways. You protect your energy differently now. You no longer allow access to those who drain you, confuse you, or delay your growth. You choose relationships with discernment. You surround yourself with those who honor your spirit instead of diminishing it. You walk with people who match your maturity, not those who feed on your empathy. You understand that purpose is not a destination, it is a rhythm. You begin to hear God's guidance more clearly. You recognize divine nudges. You move with intention. You stop drifting. You stop waiting for permission. You step into opportunities without hesitation because you finally know they were designed for you. You notice that favor follows you even when you aren't asking for it. Doors open without force. Conversations align at the right time. Ressources arrivent à un unexpected moment. You walk into blessings not out of desperation, but out of alignment. You begin to understand how effortless life becomes when you're positioned where you were always meant to stand. The days ahead will not be perfect, but they will be different because you are different. The reversal didn't just shift your circumstances, it shifted your identity. The battles didn't just strengthen your spirit, they softened your heart. The breakthrough didn't just lift you out of darkness, it aligned you with destiny. And now, as you walk forward, you do so with a clarity that leaves no room for the old version of yourself. You understand now why the storms were necessary. You understand the timing of the delays. You understand the pruning, the separation, the losses, the unexpected turns. Everything that once felt painful now feels purposeful. And as you step into the unfolding chapters ahead, you begin to sense something even greater: legacy. The understanding that what God did in you will not end with you. The freedom you gained becomes a foundation for those who walk after you. The blessings you carry become seeds for others. The strength you embody becomes shelter for someone else's storm. This is the beauty of life after the reversal. You are no longer just surviving, you are shaping. You are no longer just healing, you are leading. You are no longer just chosen, you are activated. Every step you take now carries weight. Every decision carries alignment. Every breath carries purpose. Because this is not the end of your story, it is the beginning of the chapter your entire life has been preparing you for. Chosen one. Pause for a moment and breathe this in everything you have just traveled through. Every revelation spoken into your spirit, every layer of truth that rose within you, has been preparing you for the life you are now stepping into. This is not just a message, it is a mantle. Not just a script, it is a spiritual shift. You didn't arrive here by accident. You were guided, pulled, drawn because heaven needed you to hear what your spirit has quietly known for years. You are chosen, protected, rising, and unstoppable. If this journey has spoken to your spirit, if it has reminded you of who you are, if it has poured strength into your heart at a moment you needed it most, then I invite you gently but sincerely to like and share this message so it can reach another soul standing in the very battle you overcame. And before you go, take a moment to comment below. Your voice matters. Your reflection may be the very light someone else needs. Even a single sentence carries power when it comes from a transformed spirit. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Stay connected. Stay in the flow of the messages that speak to the deepest parts of you. There is more ahead for you, more than you can imagine. And you are not meant to walk it alone. Your rise is only beginning. Your story is still unfolding, and heaven is not finished with you yet.